Namaskar, myself Dr. Shriniwas Bhong, Department of Political Science, SN Arts, DGM Commerce, BNS Science College, Sangamner. Our college is a autonomous college. Today, I am going to present a paper in the seminar organized by the UGC HRDC, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, refresher course on global studies. My paper title is Transformation in the Aftermath of a Pandemic, Implications for International Relations and Nations' Priorities. Two world wars, Cold War, and COVID-19 pandemic affected international relations and the priorities of countries. End of World War and Cold War changed the world order. World was divided into two groups. Post Cold War world became America centered. Afterwards, China has slowly made space for itself in Asia, Africa, and South America based on its economic strength. On the outskirts of a pandemic, present paper discusses following issues. Two approaches are discussed in this paper about the transformation in the aftermath of a pandemic. According to first approach, international cooperation, possibility of new global health platform, strengthening the role of nation state, new dimensions of public health to national interest, and health diplomacy is discussed. According to second approach, pragmatic priorities of nation will be continued as political geography doesn't change. Of course, one should remember while analyzing transformation in the post-pandemic international relation that only national interests are permanent in international politics and not friendship or enmity. It is aptly said by the Lenin that there are decades where nothing happens and weeks where decades happen. World order was maintained until 4 decades after World War II. In the 90s, Soviet Union disintegrated, the Berlin Wall collapsed, the world has become America centric. Now, 3 decades later, there is a growing debate among scholars about possible changes in international system due to pandemic. Whether a new world order will emerge, what will be China's position in that system, will a new Cold War begin, whether countries' priorities in international relations will change. For this matter, we have to discuss the determinants of the priorities of foreign policy. Each country's foreign policy is based upon center principles, geographical realities, ideology, economic development, long term agreements are the basis of foreign policy. In an epidemic change situation, foreign policy has added some aspects to these regulatory principles. The following two approaches emerged in this regard. First approach about possible changes in priorities of all nations includes the point that what will be the priority of the nations. International cooperation to fight against COVID 19 will be the utmost priority. Common efforts will be made to develop COVID 19 anti vaccine. Successful testing of the vaccine will be the third priority. And once now, as the vaccine is proven effective at some extent, now we have the priority to make it available to the poor people, poor countries around the world in an affordable price. And now we have the challenge to revive our economy, which has collapsed due to the lockdown. There is a now new global health platform. The question is, what will be its prospect? World War II has given birth to the United Nations organizations and its sister organizations. The American withdrawal from the World Health Organization may increase China's dominance in WHO. The new Cold War between America and China could give birth to a new global health platform led by United States of America. The rise of economic nationalism. Nationalism will be a major issue in an economics and trade after the epidemic. For example, India has adopted a policy of self reliance. The United States has already adopted anti immigration policies. The role of the state will be strengthened in international relations. The pandemic has strengthened the role of nation state in international relations. The role of nation state in controlling communicable diseases is now important. In this process, role of nation state has always stand strong than non-state actors like international non-governmental organizations, regional organizations, and multinational corporations. For last some few decades, we have more emphasized on the role of non-state actors. But now we have to discuss the role of nation state actors. Change is necessary now in the pattern of globalization. Economic globalization is characterized by the ease of flow of workers, capital, trade, and information. In a changed world after pandemic, public health is an important factor and it should be an important factor of globalization. Otherwise, declaration like America First, self-reliant India may become hurdle in the process of globalization. To avoid this, globalization should adopt humanitarian approach. The rise of China. China is the first country to recover from the COVID 19 pandemic. The Chinese government has sold medical equipments to other countries. It has sent symbolic aid to countries affected by pandemic. Through its nuisance value and the utility value, China is already tried to uplift its position in the international relations and international economy. The changing concept of national security. Transformation after pandemic has changed the concept of national security. Wilhelm Nick in 2020 has rightly pointed out this issue. Protecting public health means maintaining national security nowadays. Healthy population is a basic element of formation of state. Outbreaks appears to be exacerbated during this time. If a country has a land but the population is weak in health, the prestige of such nation will be diminished. World ceasefire. On March 23, 2020, United Nations Secretary General called for a global ceasefire in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Rise of health diplomacy. Public diplomacy, cultural diplomacy are some types of diplomacy. Pandemic has added health diplomacy in these types. Many countries have helped each other for the medical services in these days. The invade of democratic system at international level. International relations cannot be healthy if democratic form of government is practiced all over the world. Sorry, international relations cannot be healthy if democratic form of government is not practiced all over the world. Efforts to make autocratic constitution begin even before the onset of the COVID-19. However, even in the pandemic period, efforts are made to limit democracy in many nations. In fact, power concentration is during the lockdown period has encouraged new dictatorship in the form of so-called democracy. Second approach about the possible changes in priorities of all nations is that regular priorities of nations in international relations will remain permanent. Fighting with terrorism, illicit trade in drugs, pollution control, environmental protection, world trade, peace and security are the regular priorities of all the nations and it will be continuing even after pandemic. Pragmatic priorities will be continued. India has a fundamental relationship with oil producing countries, mainly for oil and natural gas needs. At the same time, India has practiced relations with Israel and Palestine also. Pandemic will not change into a nationwide or such continental relations. Continuation of Bretton Woods system. There will be no structural changes to the Bretton Woods system, but there will be a changes on the health platform. Political geography. It has been rightly said by the former Prime Minister of India, late Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in the context of Indo-Pak relations, that history can be changed, but not geography. Pandemic will not change this reality in the context of overall international relations. Reality of international relations. Not every nation can have a healthy relationship every time. Need and trade are the key determinants of international relations. Not all nations are the same. Some are major, some are minor, but all are unique. In fact, there are many nations that do not have relations in all parts of the world at the same time. First World War after Spanish flu. According to some experts, in the year 1918, 5 crore people died due to pandemic of Spanish fever. However, First World War started even after pandemic. In the same manner, one should not draw ideal world and leave utopia that there will be a very peaceful world after the pandemic. Conclusion. In international relations, the protection of public health is now a priority of all nations. Reconstruction of the economy, which has collapsed due to the pandemic, is the second priority of all nations. International relations will be determined by those two priorities. Of course, no country is willing to sacrifice public health to rebuild its economy. National security is synonymous with public health nowadays. That is the fundamental change in international relations since the pandemic. World War II has given birth to the UNO and other organizations. With the withdrawal of World Health Organization, China's determined dominance may increase in WHO. United States itself may build a new health platform on a global level, and the new world order based on public health will determine its future. After rise of Cold War, the world is now divided on the basis of ideology. The aftermath of pandemic is the emergence of new Cold War between United States and China. But the basis of this new Cold War is not ideology, but the expansion of economy. Transformation in international relations after pandemic is also going to make impact on globalization. In its negative effect on globalization is to be avoided. Humanitarian approach should be added to globalization. I have used the following reference for this paper: Aksir Nadia, Kandu Gautam, Keats Emily, Bhutta Zulfikar, COVID-19 pandemic and mitigation strategies, implications for maternal and child health and nutrition. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Volume 112, Issue 2, page 251 256. Haidong Lee, Post Pandemic International Relations Could Change for the Better, Global Times. Ego Michael Chadwick Waynes, After the Pandemic, How Will COVID 19 Transform Global Health and Development? Nafi Vesher, What Comes After Pandemic? Sanaj Aida Kaldra and Koirala Shashwat, 8 Priorities to Strengthen International Cooperation Against COVID 19. Singh Sujata, India in the Post-Pandemic World, The Hindu. Snick, Pandemic Shatters World Order, Sows Anger and Mistrust, Economic Times. And Wang Jian, Rethinking Public Diplomacy for Post-Pandemic World, The Foreign Policy Journal, APSA.org. Thank you. Thank you very much.